As we all know, engines have become the staple of today's format. Before we had cards like Book of Moon, Torrential, Bottomless, Compose, but now we have a group of cards that are used in different decks, whether it's a Dragon engine or it's this engine that gets you to a certain card, maybe like Dragoon, or we have stuff like S0, and it just really boosts the consistency or power of these decks. So today I'm going to give you more of underrated engines that you might not know of. Not like the Howl Fire Brags and the Eldritch or Dogmatica engine that we all know in our current meta. So I'm going to be bringing you guys some more strong engines that are not really explored in today's format. Now, the first engine I want to talk about in this video is one of the most iconic engines in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is the Artifact engine. Artifact Scythe is one of the most oppressive cards in today's format and was kind of speculated to be hit on the ban list a couple of times in the past. But we have something like the Artifact Link that enables you to set the Artifact Scythe in the back row so you could pop it with stuff like Tornado Dragon. You have stuff like TG Wonder Magician, you can summon off Needle Fiber, and you have some other cards that can pop your own back row in archetypes like Fluffles. So this engine is still really strong. I know Scythe is a pretty powerful card, and it is a card like Dragon Buster, which is seen in today's format right now, that could see play in the future because Scythe is just so oppressive. Even if something like Scythe gets hit, you have stuff like Moral Attack that is not as strong as something like Scythe, but can see play in the format as disruption. So the next engine I want to talk about in today's video is the Buster Dragon engine. No, I'm not talking about Union Carrier or Equip Dragon Buster and you can't play from your extra deck. I am talking about the Buster Blader Fusion and the Buster Blader Synchro, allowing you to not use any of monster effects and for all your monsters to be in defense position. You thought not summoning from your extra deck was really strong. Try not playing Yu-Gi-Oh at all because you can't use any monster effects or attack with those monsters. This engine is really strong and is very generic. You have something like Prologue, which is pretty much a one card Buster Synchro and Buster Fusion, and then you have something like the Protector Whelp, which is the Link monster that can send any Dragon Buster or the Destruction Sword cards to the graveyard. So you can pretty much make this card for free and just have this free lockdown that is very strong in today's format, especially with all of these dragons running around in the current meta. Now, the next engine I want to talk about in today's video is an engine that you might not really recognize is an engine, and that is the Deepsea Diva engine. Deepsea Diva was at one for a reason. It wasn't just because of Mermels and Atlanteans being able to abuse it to summon stuff like Neptibus and heavy inventory and all that stuff. But Diva used to summon Diva for synchro plays back in the past in the synchro days. So Diva is pretty strong, and being able to handle with something like Minstrel, and you have the Deep Sea Synchro that can also hand loop. I can see hand loop being a thing in the future as it is a meta relevant strategy in today's format. As of late 2015, field spells were getting more and more powerful. We had stuff like Cosmotown and Domain that were pretty strong in the format, but now we have stuff like Light Stage, Diagram, Set Rotation, Terraforming, all at one on the ban list. But this next field spell that I want to talk about is a really good engine in a lot of decks, and that is the Generator Boss Stage. Boss Stage being able to summon all of these tokens not just for monsters on the field, but for negation when you summon the generator monster from your deck. And you have stuff like Raptor, which is really good for getting out more of those generator monsters for disruption on your opponent's turn. So with having this field spell being able to special summon from deck, you don't really need to commit your normal summon to this. Or if you're already running a field spell, you can run terraforming and set rotation in that deck for more access to these disruptions. So this next engine is an engine that was hit before we even had a chance to abuse it in the TCG, and that is the Nemesis archetype. This archetype was really good in paired with Colossus because of the Thunder when Nemesis was able to trigger the Colossus effect to summon it onto the field. And we had something like Malicious in the format that was able to banish itself and then have access to these Nemesis to recycle that Malicious back into the deck so you can use the Malicious over and over again. But with those two cards, hit or slash ban, they don't really have something to kind of find a home in, except maybe like some warrior engines that banish with the Phoenix Blade. But Nemesis is a really good engine to kind of spam the field and make link monsters, do all this sort of stuff. But when we do find that deck that banishes cards or banishes monsters specifically, this engine is going to be really good because you can add stuff from the deck. You can add stuff that is banished. You can add stuff that is in the graveyard with these Nemesis cards. And then you have the Nemesis boss monsters that can stop different types of attributes or different type of monsters, which is really strong when you have a different deck that is like really strong in the meta that is specific to a certain type or attribute. So this next engine is an engine that was explored in early 2020, probably late 2019, when we had speculations of this Link monster coming into the game, and that is the Raid Raptor engine. We have access to something like the barrier statue that stops you from spell summoning except wind type monsters, which is not really relevant in today's metagame. We have something like Apex Avian with the infinite negate combo with the Cyborg Link, and then we have a negate with Cyber Dragon Infinity with just an XYZ monster called Forstrix and one extender, which is just really powerful in today's format, but is not seeing play because there's not a lot of rank 4 decks. But when we do get that rank 4 deck that is not Lunalights because we don't have Tiger, this engine will be very strong and very impressive in our metagame. Now, the last engine I want to talk about in today's video is the Sacred Beast engine. A lot of people are now trying to explore this engine to make a one card Curious that is really good for stuff like Eldritch and stuff like Dangers that don't really need to use their normal summon. So having access to a Link 3 that sends these cards to the graveyard so you can get your engine rolling is really good for these type of decks. And we'll probably see some more decks that really don't need their normal summon and will abuse this strategy to kind of get to, Link 2s or Link 3s in the future. So I can see this engine being really powerful in today's metagame, even right now, even though it's like kind of underrated and is not really that powerful because a lot of these decks do need their normal summon. Now, before I end this video, I want to quickly name off some engines that you could play in your deck that I didn't really want to include in today's video because I just wanted to make this video short and sweet for you guys. So, for the first one, I have Dangers. Dangers is still really good, even with Tsuchinoko, Jackalope, and Nessie all at one. Then you have the Kaiju engine that is really good for just getting through opponents' monsters or baiting out negates. Then you have the Spellbook or the Magician Souls engine, which is really good for dinning through your deck. Then you have the Neos engine that is really good for getting out Neos to kind of clear your opponent's board. Then you have the Frog engine, which is used in a lot of different water decks to get out totally awesome. Then you have the Numeron engine that is really good for getting out a Zero, if not Megalops or Saryuja. Then you have the engine of the dinosaurs, Archosaur, whatever you want to call that card, is really good for reptiles, winged beasts, and sea serpents, which is seeing play in some Mermail strategies. Then you have the Rock engine, which we don't have really a lot of rock decks, but in the future we will see some more rock decks that are really good and paired with Adamantivators. Then we have the 10 Yi cards that are really good in many different decks. You have the Water one really good in Adamantivators. Then you have Adara really good for a tuner extender. You have the Vishuda, whatever it's called, the dark one that is really good for bouncing cards. So all of these different 10 Yi cards are just really good for different reasons. Then you have the Girsu engine that is really good in something like Mech Knights or Orcus as a way to get out negates with something like Lib and stuff like that. Then you have the Time Thief or Utopia engine that is really good for getting out some negates or spamming out rank 4 monsters. Then we have the Machina engine that is really good for comboing out with the scrap recycler and all the, scrap cards that are really good. And it's just a really good extender with machine type archetypes. And then we have the Unchained engine that is really good for popping your own cards on your field so it can trigger some effects. We have the live stage or live streamed archetype that is coming out in the future that is really good. And then we have something like Unchained Abomination that is just really good in a lot of different strategies. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was a really quick video. I wanted to update because I had a engines video that was really kind of blowing up. I don't know why it has like so many views or why it's getting so popular all of a sudden. But I wanted to kind of update you guys on, underrated engines that you could play in your deck. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a like, give it a subscribe if you want to see some more videos like this that are really generic and help you get better at the game or acknowledge you of stuff that you might not know. So see you guys in the next video.